The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, those in the chat room and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one. Got a great show lined up tonight. And if you, I guess we'll just start off with the people first. We have with us Barbara Duncan.
Good evening, everyone.
We have with us Tabby Cat.
How you doing, everybody?
We have Jeffrey Gould with us.
Hello, hello.
And if you do have questions tonight, and you're in the chat room, you can private chat them to either Ceiling Cat, Tabby Cat, or myself, and we will get those answered for you tonight. So, I guess the weather's been up and down. I'm glad our show hasn't been up and down.
Thank goodness it's not been raining or anything else on the show, but it's been funky here in Maryland.
I wanted to let everybody know, and I'll let Jeff fill you in on it, but the Paranormal View has a YouTube channel to where all our shows that we do is being posted over to the YouTube channel. All you have to do is go look it up and just join it. Doesn't cost you anything. And you can view, listen to our old shows as well as whichever current one we post on there. And I have tons more because it goes way back to 2010. We had earlier shows that I wasn't able to keep. And I wished I did the first 2 years that we was on air, but we didn't. So, but we're going to be working on getting all of our old shows posted also. So Jeff will put it in the chat room, and he'll give out information later in the show or at the end of the show of how you can go look at it. So with that, Jeff, why don't you introduce our guest?
Sure. Oops, so I jumped on the wrong side of my little page here. Hang on a sec. Our guest tonight is Rhonda Russo. She's a natural-born intuitive psychic medium. She puts her psychic abilities to work as a paranormal investigator, yay, with well over 20 years of experience, and with her motto, knowledge replaces fear. She investigates private homes and businesses, but for fun also conducts public haunted investigations. She offers certification workshops on Usui, I hope that's right, Reiki Practitioner, first, second, and third degree, crystal Reiki and animal Reiki, ghost hunting, animal CPR, and first aid and chakras. Rhonda's also taught her workshop to conduct gallery-style psychic medium readings at public colleges, public libraries, county parks and recreations, fire halls, paranormal conventions, Zoom, and other public venues, as well as private homes. And Rhonda has written a book on beginner ghost hunting and has been featured on many local newspapers, radio shows, and podcasts. And here she is. Welcome, Rhonda Russo.
Well, thank you for having me.
I get to start it off here, and then everybody else gets to ask their questions.
Okay.
You're listed as a medium. What is the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Well, a psychic just has more like a knowing and intuition kind of thing going on. They can be empaths and just have that gut feeling, and also they can kind of like tell your future, card readers, things like that. A medium talks directly to, and they say, a lot of mediums, they say they talk to the dead. I don't like to refer to them as dead because they aren't dead. Obviously, if they were dead, their spirit would not be communicating with us. They have a dead physical body, but their spirit lives on. So I communicate to spirits. I can also see them from time to time, and also I can see ghosts. I've been born seeing ghosts and things like that, and they touch me, and I can feel how somebody died. Sometimes it's just a mixed bag with me. It every time it's different. So, but that's basically what the difference is. If that answers your question, Annie, if that helps you, Annie.
Oh yeah. All right.
Now, Rhonda, do you also see spirits of animals? I know you're a Reiki and a first aid for animals, but do you also see animal spirits as well?
Yes, I do. A lot of people come to me for animal readings. Now, and this is a good example of how a psychic is, as opposed to medium. People will come to me for intuitive animal readings with their live animals. You know, their animal might have an issue that they're not acting completely normal. They had it checked out. Everything's physically fine. So they'll call me in to let me communicate with that animal. That is pretty much what a psychic does. Now, people also come to me to contact their past little pets, and I can communicate with them and see them. And so that is the medium part of it. So, but yes, I do. And actually, my mom's cat, I had her here. She was very sick, got sick all of a sudden, and I brought her to my house, and I was nursing her along under the supervision of the veterinarian. I was administering medication and stuff, but she didn't make it. And so that day, well, actually that evening, when she passed away, I had a dream about her, and I actually saw her going into the light. And when she was going into the light, I actually saw other cats behind her, and they looked similar to the cats that we have, but they were totally different, actually, if that makes any sense. They were shaped like a cat, but they were the most vibrant colors of their fur that I've ever seen. And it was really, I mean, I felt very, very privileged to have seen that, and it was just awesome. But it was only brief that I saw it.
Well, it seems to me that probably the spirits that accompanied her helped her to cross over. Perhaps they were siblings, related in some way, or other animals that she knew of and grew up with over the years and was very familiar with that had gone before her. So it makes sense that animals would have the same experience that humans do, that when they pass, a lot of, even near-death experiences claim that they see their loved ones, but then are told, nope, it's not your time, go back, that sort of thing. But why couldn't animals have the same thing? I think it's definitely possible because they have souls. So why not?
Yeah, I totally agree. And also our guides, because if it's your pet and you care for it and you love it, our guides will also help that animal cross as well.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And angels, we are all born with at least one guardian angel, and it stays with us throughout our whole lives. So I would imagine that the animals would have one too. I wouldn't see why not.
Yeah.
But you're right. With people seeing their loved ones, my mom just recently passed away. She passed away on the 25th. And I went to see her. Finally, she was in a nursing home, and finally COVID let up just in enough time that I could actually go see her again and didn't have to have my mask on. And when I was talking to her, she kept staring up in the ceiling and we asked her, "What are you looking at?" She said, "Well, it's Mom. Mom's up there."
Oh.
And then a couple of weeks later, she passed away in her sleep.
Yeah. That's a very comforting thought, really. It is, when you think about it, that, even in those times, there's someone that is saying, "Hey, it's okay. I'm here. I'm here for you." That's a comforting thought.
My uncle, I was there when my uncle passed away, and that was actually, and this is an animal story actually as well, but just before I got there, he was almost in a coma, and he had cancer. There was no hope for him, but he woke up and he sat up with his arms stretched out and he said, "Mom." And then he laid back down. And then later on that night, now mind you, he had a dog named Storm, big dog, and the dog stayed beside his bed constantly. The only time she moved was when she needed to go to the bathroom or eat, and that was it. And then she was back right beside him. And when he took his last breath, she looked up at him, and then she turned around. Because he was in the living room, because they put the hospital bed in there so they could have more room for visitors. She turned around, walked over to the doorway to where the dining room was. She looked up towards the ceiling, and she was barking. And then his daughter's dog did the same thing, and they saw his spirit move out of his body, his soul rather. And then they went underneath the dining room table, and the dog never went back in the living room with my uncle, and his body laid there for several hours until the funeral home came to get him.
Oh.
Yeah. So animal eyes are, especially cats, are different than ours. They can see different dimensions than we can. And of course, dogs can hear different things than we can.
Well, I can tell you my cat definitely knows when animal communicators are on the show, because she's up here on the armchair trying to talk. They're all over the place, yeah.
Well, maybe she hears my bird.
Could be. So do the animals communicate with you from the other side as well? And what do they tell you?
Well, and people can't understand that. They're like, well, animals can't talk, so how can you possibly tell me what they're saying, because they can't talk to you, and you're just a fake. You're making it up. But what they do is they send me images, and they send me thoughts, and that's what I process. So, like, Fido could be trying to communicate with his owner, and what Fido will send me is a picture of his blue fuzzy bed and his bright red ball that he always played with. And then I'll say that, and then, oh yeah, he did have that. And then from that point on, when the sitter gets more relaxed, they get more open to receiving spirit as well. And they're giving permission to their guides subconsciously that, oh yeah, I want to hear more. I want to connect. And it makes it much easier for me then to receive messages. And grant you, the dog may have guides, and of course the sitter, they have guides that are communicating with my guides that are allowing me to get messages from the dog or Aunt Flo or whoever. And there could be also another person there with the dog. And I'll say, well, you know, there is a lady here, and I'll describe her. And, oh, well, that's Grandma, you know. Well, now Grandma and Fido are together. So that's how I get the messages basically from dogs and I mean, animals.
I always figure anyone who says that animals can't communicate has never owned a pet, because
Right.
I know exactly what my cat is requesting when he's being insistent, or when he wants attention, or when he wants to go in or go out. And so yeah, I just hearing him meow from a distance, I'm like, oh, he wants this.
Mhm. Mhm. And you know, if they were physically capable of doing it, they could talk to us, but
And
they
some of them
can't.
would never shut up.
Yeah, there's no ways that they can pronounce words or things like that, but they understand what we're saying. I have a deaf cat, and she and I made up a certain sign language for us to communicate with each other. So they're not dumb by any sense. I mean, if anybody's dumb, it's humans.
So how often does a pet that's passed come back to try to communicate with us, and how often do we actually know that they're trying to come back and contact us?
Well, if you really were close to that pet, chances are they want to communicate with you. You know, to let them know that, to let you know that they're okay. I've seen this quite often. The more you miss them, if you have like a really broken heart and you're crying all the time and you really are having a hard time dealing with their loss, they'll hang around for a while and they won't cross over. But they can cross over any time that they want. They have free will just like we do. But, you know, they're probably, and they do give you signs. I mean, I used to have a pet groundhog. I did. I try not to anymore. I mean, I always help them, but I give them to rescuers now. But when I was a kid, I rescued a groundhog from a little tiny baby. I mean, she was just left in the middle of nowhere, didn't have her eyes open. And so I raised her, and I had her for 10 years. And when she passed away, that totally devastated me. I mean, she slept with me. I was all of 88 pounds soaking wet, and this 35-pound groundhog laid on my stomach, and her face was right at mine, and that's where she slept. And when she died, it just devastated me. But to this day, every once in a while, when I'm laying in bed, I will feel her walking up. And she had a distinct way of walking on the bed, unlike a cat. So she was, and my veterinarian called her fat, round, and low to the ground. And her name was Heidi. But she'll come back and visit me, and sometimes I'll smell her. There's so many ways that they can send you a sign. It's just that you really need to be open to receive it. Oh. Now, 2 days after my mom passed away, I lost my little bird. And he was my familiar, and we were very, very, very close. And he suddenly just got sick and died. I honestly don't know what happened to him. I gave him the correct diet and everything, but I just lost it. And I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm like, why? And I asked Mom, I said, Mom, can you please let me know that he's okay and that you have him? Please give me a sign. And I'm sitting in my dining room, and I can see my living room and my kitchen from where I'm at. And all of a sudden, I saw black, like this fluttering up in the ceiling in my living room, and then it stopped, and then it went in the ceiling in my kitchen. and my bird was black. So I saw his little spirit fluttering.
Yeah.
So
That's got to be very comforting.
It is, but I still miss the dickens out of him. I mean, I shared every meal with him. If I left the room, he called me. I mean, I'm close to every one of my pets, but there's a few that are you're familiar and you get really, really attached to, and he was one of them. And so I was just, first my father-in-law, then my mom, then my bird, all three in 1 month.
Wow.
And they say death comes in threes, so.
Yeah. Yep.
This was a hard 3.
So you say that you rescue animals. How long do you keep them there before you have them going to a sanctuary or a vet?
Well, lucky for me, right up the street is a veterinarian that is licensed to take wildlife, injured wildlife. So lucky for me, yeah, but unlucky a lot of times because it's usually on the weekends that I find them. So I am licensed. I'm a licensed wildlife removal nuisance wildlife person, removal person. And so I'm legally able to hold them for a few days in transit before I try to place them somewhere. So that saves my butt there because I'm not a licensed rehab person. It's just too much red tape to go through in the state of Maryland to do it. But as soon as I can get them to a rehab person, that is your best bet. They have medication. They can treat them. They can give them surgery. They can tube feed them. If they're babies, they're going to raise them so they're not imprinted, so they can get out there and put them back in the wild. So that's their very best chance. I mean, yeah, you can domesticate a wild animal, and they do absolutely perfectly fine, but it's against the law to have them. And also, yeah, you can probably sneakily have them, but if they get sick, you're not going to find a vet for them. And if you do find a vet for them, they're going to confiscate them and probably kill them.
Oh, wow.
So the best, yeah. In the state of Maryland, they'll euthanize them.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah. I know that from up here. Yep.
The best bet is just to get them to a rehab. I mean, do whatever you can to help them at that time safely, especially if they're a vector animal like a fox or a raccoon. Something like that, it's probably best not to handle them. Try to get somebody that knows what they're doing because they have their rabies shots, and if they get bit, it's not gonna matter. Because if the animal doesn't have rabies and they bite you anyway, guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna kill that animal, cut their head off, and check them for rabies.
Yeah, which is kind of foolish. They should be doing it the other way around. But no, you're right. Maryland's got some very, very strict animal laws. They really do.
Yeah, I mean, they could give them the rabies vectors test. They could quarantine them, but they won't do that. They'll just kill them and whatnot and send them off. Yeah, in Maryland and some other states are catching on to it too, and it's just not fair to the animal. The animal is the one that suffers. So
yeah.
And there's a lot of people that actually mean well. They don't understand that, you mean there's a migratory law that I can't help this little baby bird? I got in trouble for helping a blue jay. I had no idea there was a migratory law going on. And so the little blue jay was in the middle of no place. I mean, in the middle of a field, and it was cold, and it was almost dead. And we found it, and I brought it back and raised it, and all intentions of raising it to let it go. And I did, built it a transition cage outside. He did very well, named him Blue. And I was training him to go with the flock of jays at my house. And my neighbor, who was a piece of crap,
And I think everybody's got one of those.
Well, he turned me in, and I had a DNR officer come to the door, and he could have thrown me in jail and fined me for $1,000, but he did not, because he saw that the blue jay was in good shape. I had no idea about the migratory law, and that he saw that I was actually trying to get him, acclimated to being outside and with the other jays. So, it was all good there. But needless to say,
They put you
I
on,
did not like my neighbor.
they put you on the watch
what is
list.
that old saying that no good deed goes unpunished?
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I made it so uncomfortable for him that he moved away in 2 weeks. I didn't even have to raise a finger at it. I just gave him the look, and that was all.
Karma always manages to come around.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Yeah. As a medium, have you ever been to any locations where you have picked up on animal spirits and then, let others around you know, hey, there's a cat or a dog or something like that, and others have also picked up on it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was one in particular that there was a medium up in Gettysburg. I don't know if you remember her. Her name was Madame Della.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did a little thing with them one night, and she went in and did her psychic thing, and then I went in with the group to investigate later on, and I picked up on a dog that had spots on it, and she had picked up on the same dog. So that was kind of cool that we both picked up on the same thing. And the dog was in the basement behind the steps. But yeah, I do pick up on animals quite a bit. I mean, they come to me. Terry, that I do readings with and so on and so forth. She's like, yeah, Rhonda is the animal magnet. So if you want to contact your animal spirits, that's the one to talk to.
Okay. All right.
Got a question from the chat room. They want to know if you work with live animals.
I do Reiki, animal Reiki with them, and it's Usui Reiki. It's Japanese channeled natural spiritual healing, and I do that with the animals. And also I do intuitive readings with animals. I was born that way. I could communicate with them since I was a little kid. I didn't even need to I could just know what they were thinking about or wanting to do and things like that. I mean, on my honeymoon, we went to Jamaica. And this was in '96, so this was even before the crocodile hunter. And my husband and I were walking around the resort at night, and I see this movement. I'm like, what is that? It was these ginormous frogs. And I literally chased them down. I was picking them up, and literally when they were stretched out from snout to tip of the toe, it was a good 1.5 feet.
Wow.
And I literally did kiss one on the mouth.
Oh, God.
I'm not gonna lie, I did. I wanted to see if he was going to turn into a prince, because if he did, get annulment. But nope, prince. But I'm like, I was like the female crocodile hunter.
Oh, I thought there for a minute earlier you said that you sue animals.
No.
Now, the Usui Reiki that you use, as you mentioned, on animals, I also see that you use that same technique to help ghosts, or, you know, when it says ghosts, but spirits, to help them cross over? And how do you use Reiki to help a spirit? I've never heard of that before.
Reiki is a channeled healing method from your Reiki guides. It's spiritual, and the energy goes through me and then comes out of my hands to heal. So if they're ghosts, but I like to call them disembodied souls, because our soul is what animates our bodies. And when our human body ceases to exist, the soul jumps out. And it's supposed to go back up into our 8th chakra, where our spirit dwells. That's our higher self, and go on and cross over. Sometimes it doesn't do that. So it'll just hang around, and that's actually what is a ghost. And the ghost vibrations are very close to when we're in our human body, but a little bit above it. When you cross it over into the spirit, then it's a very much higher vibration. But I can actually, if the ghost or disembodied soul wants to be healed, and I'll communicate with them, then I can actually perform long distance Reiki healing on them. And there's certain symbols that you can draw and help them cross over that way. And also it opens up a portal for them as well to go.
Well, does animals that are still here, do they come and communicate with you? They may be sick or something like that. Do they come and get you to tell the owners that they're not well, or that it's close to time for them to go?
Yeah, I can actually use Reiki on them and scan their bodies and figure out about what's going on with them physically. And you can also do this with a pendulum as well. And what the pendulum does is it picks up energy. And so you can scan the chakras with the pendulum. And if the pendulum goes in a clockwise position, or clockwise motion, then that chakra is good. But if it goes in a counterclockwise, or perhaps it's just sitting there and it shakes, or it's still, that means it could be blocked, or it's just not flowing properly, or something like that. So that's how you can tell where the animal is blocked, or it has a physical issue. Say, like, if it's animal chakras are a little bit different from our chakras. They have different ones than we do. But say, like, when I'm scanning a human, and down on the, let's see, the 3rd chakra, you say, like, it's sitting there, it's shaking, or it might be going counterclockwise. That means there's probably gut issues going on. It could be from stress, or it could be something physical, and some kind of a physical ailment. But you can detect it that way. But I can also scan them with my hands with Reiki, and I just know. I can tell by how it kind of vibrates with my hands when I'm doing the Reiki. And also, my hands are always cold, but when I'm fired up to do Reiki, my hands get really, really hot.
Is that from the energy? Is that from the energy that radiates from? Well, do you figure it's an energy that radiates from yourself, or does it actually come from either the person or the pet that you're reading?
It's not coming from them. It's coming from the universal life forces, and my Reiki guides channeling it down through my chakras, through my body, and goes out in my hands. And right at the bottom of your thumb, is a chakra point, and that's pretty much where it comes out of. And people are going, oh, my goodness, you're just a nut, you know, talking about all that stuff. And truly, I didn't really 100% believe it myself either, but I had a cat, her name was Lily, and she developed oral cancer. And Lily would get bouts of mouth bleeding. It wasn't her time to go yet. She was still eating. She was not in any pain. So I believe in keeping them. I believe in letting the animal tell me when it's ready to go. But she would get these bleeding spells, but they didn't last very long. They'd stop. Well, the one of the last ones that she had 2 weeks before she passed away, she started bleeding, and it would not stop. I mean, it looked like somebody murdered somebody on my floor. And she was normally okay with the bleeding, but she got kind of worried about it herself, and she was walking around. She's like, oh, what's going on here? So I'm like, I don't know, you know. I'm thinking, and I was like, wait a minute, I'll use Reiki on her. So I did. I sat down, and I put my hands out. She came right over to me. She sat down, and the bleeding turned off just like a faucet.
Oh, goodness.
I'm like, wow, that just did not happen. And it did. And I'm like, well, hey, now I am a believer. And I don't believe in teaching anything or practicing anything if I don't fully believe in it. We have the power to heal ourselves, and we also have higher power energy that we can channel to also heal us. And then there are people that are willing to let that flow through their bodies to heal other people. Now, am I saying somebody that has cancer and they're under the care of their doctor should just stop it and just do Reiki? No, that's not what it's for. But it is a good thing to do with the healing of the chemotherapy. It's going to help you get through the chemotherapy. It'll help you to stay calm. And if it is your time to go, obviously it's not going to perform a miracle healing. Yes, it can prolong you to live. Say, like if your loved one is over across in Europe and you want to see them for one last time, Reiki can probably help you stay alive a little longer. But if it is your time and you are dying, it can also help you to calm down and to accept the natural dying process, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it definitely does. I think no matter who you are and what your belief system is, it's all a matter of how you perceive things and how you allow yourself to look at your life. And if you come at life with a at least somewhat of a positive attitude, sometimes that's difficult to do, but if you at least give it a chance and look at it that, yeah, things can get better, things can work out, I think that applies to not only life, but I think it definitely applies to your health. And, whether it's Reiki, whether it's faith, most certainly it helps if you practice it.
Well, there's faith healers and many different religions. And with Reiki, it's not a religious-based healing method. Anybody can learn it and practice it. A lot of massage people do it now, and even doctors' offices do it now. But it's non-denominational. You can, but here's the thing: I call it the universal life forces, but it's all coming from. Every one of you are tapping out of the same energy source. It's not that God or that goddess or this goddess or whatever. It is all the same energy source. Now, we can channel it in many different ways, but it's all coming from that same source. And it has a lot to do with the way you are thinking. If you are ill with a terminal illness or a serious illness, And you go, well, that's it. That's it. End of the road, and just hang up and give it up. Well, that's your choice, and that's your out. But you can also choose to live and try to help yourself. And a lot of times, miraculous healings will take place. You have to meet it halfway. Of course, sometimes it just isn't your time to live. It's your time to go, and you don't have any choice in the matter. I mean, I've come close to death several times. I'm like a cat with 9 lives, and I'm like thinking, I'm sitting here, I'm counting my lives. I'm like, okay, cat has 9 lives. How many do I have? But yeah, I mean, I've been hit by a truck going 60 miles an hour while I was in a pet store, and I was on a skiing accident. Well, I was sledding rather, and I landed right where a man died that day. Broke my pelvis. I mean, I was drowned almost a few times, so it's crazy.
Well, not making light of the subject, but do you buy lottery tickets?
No.
Wow, with that kind of luck. Gee, many Christmas.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, something very similar happened to my father. None of us saw it happen, but we were skiing up in Mount Peter, New York, our favorite skiing place, and he crashed. He completely wiped out, agony of defeat level crash, and to the point that when he brought the skis back to the rental place, they said, "You can't be walking and alive for the ski to have broken this way." But the thing is all his memory was skiing down the slope, and all of a sudden he's looking at blue skies like, oh, what? Oh, I seem to be on my back. And the skier came up and said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I think so." He says, "Man, what a spill you took." My father has no memory of the actual crash, so we all indicated that his guardian angel essentially just scooped him up and put him down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I did hear, I guess it was my guardian angel. I was a friend of mine owns a pet shop in town, and my husband and I stopped in there for crickets because I had some pet frogs. And we were in the front of the store talking to Bill, the African gray, and he would talk long sentences. I mean, he would say, "You come back here, you're funny, ha ha ha," and he'd go like that and make farting noises, and he'd go ha ha ha. And so we stayed there and talked to him for like a half hour. And the last time we took a step back, and he ran down his curved perch. And all of a sudden, I saw the window, spider webbing really slow. And I'm like, what in the world is going on with that? And then I heard this woman's voice. She said, "If you want to live, you better turn and run fast." And with that, I turned my head to the left. And then all of a sudden, it exploded. I got hit by something, and it hit me so hard, it knocked me up in the air, and I could feel my soul just go right out of my body. I mean, it was the wildest thing. And it was a truck that came in from across the highway. The man had a seizure. He hit the curb, went airborne into the pet shop. Bill the bird must have seen it. If I would have seen it, I would have grabbed Bill. But anyway, he went all the way in the pet shop with this truck and buried. The truck mirror hit my side of my face and tore my right ear half off. If I would not have turned my head when I was given the opportunity, she didn't tell me I had to. She said if I wanted to live, because I have free will. They don't. They can't tell us what to do because they don't have free will. If I wouldn't have turned my head, that mirror would have taken me all the way in the back with him.
Ow. Man.
Yeah, and then the tailgate hit me and knocked me 6 feet back into the shelves.
Wow.
So but yet it slowed down. It slowed down. I could see it slowly spiderwebbing, but yet I had a witness that worked there, and she saw the whole thing, and she said when the truck hit me, blood went up in the air, and it all happened so fast, but yet it happened very slowly for me. So, and that's just amazing how that can work. I mean, that was one of my outs. I could have died that day, but I turned my head.
Wow.
Sometimes all it takes is one little action changes everything.
Yep.
Wow.
But I don't know how many more outs. I mean, lives.
How many more chances?
I know.
Now, I know you worked, or you still do, I guess, work as an investigator with the Haunted View and with Bump in the Night Investigations. Is that groups where you guys go do investigations when somebody wants something investigated, or is it where you do tours, you have a place booked or something like that, and you get people to go there?
Well, the Haunted View, we used to, before COVID, our local college, Frederick Community College, we would give ghost hunting classes, because a lot of people see these ghost hunting shows and then they're like, oh, okay, let's run out and let's go to a cemetery, or let's go here, let's go there. And before you know it, they have attachments. And then they have, or the worst yet, the thing that they could ever do is get the equipment and then ask spirits in their own house, hey, is anybody here? Let me take your picture. Come on, talk to me. That's the worst thing that can happen, because then you opened up portals.
Yep.
And then I get called a lot because of people using Ouija boards, which I use Ouija boards. There's nothing wrong with them. You just have to know how to use them properly. But they open up portals, don't close the portals, and then you got all kinds of stuff coming in. It's party time. So I'm called for that. But I decided that it's best to go ahead and give these classes. And that's why I wrote my book. It's just a little book that I would give out to my classes, so they can have, something to look up what to do or whatnot. And it's explained in simple terms, but how to do it properly so that they don't have attachments coming home with them. Because that happened to me. I had, oh my goodness, all kinds of stuff going on in here. And then, of course, I'm a seer as well. And the things saw my light on, they followed me home. I'm like, oh my goodness, I had a terrible time trying to sleep. So my bedroom is now my sanctuary there. I mean, yes, positive spirits can come through and connect with me, but no more the other goings on. I had all kinds of stuff. Oh my goodness, my stereo went on and blew sparks out of it, and people standing at the foot of my bed, and it was just on and on. But that's why I started doing that. But we mostly do private homes and private businesses. Now, with the groups that we teach, we would take them up to Gettysburg, to like the orphanage or the Jenny Wade house, and rent that for a couple of hours after they close, and we would investigate so I can show them how to properly use the equipment and things like that. So that's basically as far as the public investigations would go. Now, Terry and I are also doing a thing at the Mansion House 1757, the old Fairfield Inn,
right,
in Fairfield, Pennsylvania, and we're doing an overnight there with people that they're spending the night with us, and we're going to do table tipping and gallery readings and lectures and also investigating. So that's fun too. But mostly it's private homes and private businesses, and we do not charge for investigations.
Now, what's going to happen at the Old Fairfield Inn is it just by invitation only, or is it something that anybody can contact you, and if there's something available, they can investigate with you?
Well, we charge for that because we have to rent the inn,
right?
The inn, everything, and I think it's like 11 people, however many rooms there is that we can fill up. Plus, people can also come for the table tipping and the lectures and the gallery reading. But the investigation is for only the ones that rented a room.
Okay.
Because the inn has to close at a certain time.
Yeah.
But, we're going to be doing those a few times a year. And you can look on my Facebook page. I've got Bump in the Night investigations. There's also the Haunted View. And there's also Rhonda Russo, Intuitive Psychic Medium page on Facebook. I'm going to be getting up a personal website soon. There's the Haunted View one. Now, the Haunted View I do with Sharon Galloway, and we're doing a Zoom thing for an event called Life and Death event. And so that Sunday, it's next Sunday, Sharon and I are going to be at a mausoleum in West Virginia, and she's going to hypnotize me.
Okay, is that where I think you guys are going to be?
I think so.
Is that in
and
that cemetery in Martinsburg?
Yes.
Ah.
I've never been. So I'm going to be hypnotized there, and I'm also going to be doing one of my favorite forms of divination is the pendulum and also dowsing rods. My dowsing rods never, ever fail me, ever.
Cool.
One of my favorite forms of communicating, with trying to validate when, a spirit is there. I mean, you can ask yes or no questions, and also you can ask them to point to where the spirit is. That's kind of cool, too. I've actually had the rods hug me. One will go left, one will go right, and then they hug me.
Yeah.
So you can actually get a hug from spirit with dowsing rods.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's some, actually using dowsing rods is probably one of my favorite things to use. And for the longest time, I really wasn't exactly sure how to use them properly. I just did like everybody else did. You hold on to them. You ask the spirit to either cross them for yes or pull them apart for no, or, sometimes they would go wacky. And I was very fortunate that a few years back, I was up in Gettysburg, and I actually went to a class with the Reverend Tim Shaw. And he showed us all how to use the dowsing rods and pendulums. And it was very enlightening, because some of the things that he told us to do and what not to do, I was like, really? I didn't know, because, most people just go and pick them up and figure, well, how easy is this? But no, it's not that easy, because you can manipulate them whether you think so or not. And you have to learn how to know that you're not manipulating them. And that's the biggest thing that I found.
With me, I can actually feel my hands starting to pulsate.
Oh, I've gotten shocked before. I've actually gotten shocked through them. Oh, man, that's a weird feeling.
But, people go, oh, well, you're moving those. No, because I don't do that, because if I were to kind of trick somebody or try to trick somebody, I'm also tricking myself. I'm just as curious about the paranormal and amazed at what they can do as far as communicating with me as the next person is. So I'm not one that's going to be giving false evidence or anything like that. I just, but unfortunately, there's some groups out there that do that. And I mean, I went investigated years ago with a group. They were in Charlestown. Yeah, Charlestown. It was at an inn. And we were in there, and I took pictures, and I got a few orbs, and I sent them to her. She goes, "Well, you missed the faces in the windows and the mirrors," and she actually doctored my pictures up and put these little ghosty little faces.
Oh, that was rude.
They look like Casper faces, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I have the memory stick here. I have the original pictures. You just doctored my pictures up and sent them back to me."
Oh, man.
I had no more faith in that group at all, and I just totally just disassociated with anything that they had to do. Mm-hmm. And they would fake, and they had so many people that trusted and believed in them and followed them, and I'm like, oh my goodness. That was just, it was sad. And what that does is it gives everybody that's legit a bad rap.
Yeah. It puts a bad taste in people's mouths when people pull that kind of crap.
Wow. There's a lot of non-believers out there, and that's fine. But then when they go doing that stuff, and then the non-believers catch on to that because it's very easy to catch on to it, then they go attacking people like me, like you, and others that are actually legit doing this.
Wow. Yeah, it's unfortunate we have to live with that stigma. I mean, any of us, and, you know, we've definitely got some listeners, and we got people here on the show right now that actually are, you know, involved within the paranormal, that use our abilities and so forth. And, you know, we're kind of under a microscope all the time. And the slightest little thing that we might do, some people will pick at like a scab. Mm-hmm. And all we can do is just say, hey, look, you know, I'm sorry. If you don't believe, that's your prerogative, that's your right. But, you know, and all we can do is, you know, be as true to ourselves as we possibly can.
Yeah. And especially when you're a medium on top of that, or you're sensitive, and then there's always somebody out there that will call you down. Mm-hmm. All right, well, if you're such a medium, then, okay, what number am I thinking about? I'm a medium, not a mind reader. You know? Well, okay, well, you know, the person that I wanted to connect with, you have to say the word that I'm wanting them to say, and then I'll believe you. Well, they're so uptight about not really believing you that they're not giving their guides permission to relay any message. And why would they? I mean, you know, you're closed-minded. Your energy is all wrong. It's just as important for the sitter to have their vibes at a relaxed pace and open, and as it is for me to have, you know, mine going at the rate that it's good for spirit to come through. It makes it so much more easier. But if you're dead set on that one word, I mean, chances are, yeah, it could happen, but chances are, no, it's not going to happen, because it's just, everything is just so uptight and everything. I mean, that person might not come through.
Exactly.
You know, you can have a spirit guide come through. You could have an angel come through. You could have a great grandfather come through, or you could have the loved one that you really want to come through. But you just have to be open and ready to receive whatever message is from whoever you get. I have no control over that. my job is to, okay, I'm open, bring anybody through. And I just see, it's like playing charades. I mean, I might see visions. I might see a person. A lot of times when I'm giving a Zoom reading or even a phone reading, I'll see a shadow figure go past me. And the last Zoom that I had, I mean, you can see yourself on the screen, and I saw an orb go right behind my head. It was a big one, too. So, anything can happen. I have no control over that, really. I just relay the messages. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger.
All right. We are about halfway now. So what we're going to do is take about a 5-6 minute break. And when we come back, we got lots more questions, and we'll be talking some more with Rhonda. So just remember your mics are live, so just don't say anything or mute it until we come back on. And until then, see who's taking us out.
Pretty much me as always.
That's good then.
Well, you're listening to the Paranormal View on power-x.com with your hosts Henry Foister, Ceiling Cat Barbara Duncan, Tabby Cat Gash, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, with tonight's guest psychic medium Rhonda Russo. So stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
Para-X Radio, programming for the open mind.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world. We have with us tonight Barbara Duncan.
Hello, everyone.
And speaking from around the world, where do we have guests at tonight?
All over the United States, across the pond, in the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Canada.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And we have with us Tabby Cat Gash.
How you doing, everybody?
And Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
And our guest, Rhonda Russo.
Hello.
All right. I want to welcome you back and let everybody know that if you do have questions tonight, you can take and send them to either H. Foister, Ceiling Cat, or Tabby Cat, and we will get those answered for you. Whenever you do a show like this, does a spirit ever come to you with a message and say, hey, I want to say something to so-and-so or something?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because during the break I had time to sit here and just be. And I got a vision of a man, and he's driving like a white motorboat. It's a rather wide one. And he's in a rather big lake, and he's going towards the sunset, and he's waving. And I think that his name is Bill, but it could be Bill, Phil, Will, something like that. If that, I mean, it could be one of you guys, or it could be any of the listeners. So that happens. I mean, the last gallery thing that we did, Terry and I, we do Lifting the Veil, and we were at the Lewistown Fire Hall, and we had like 100 people. So, I mean, they're all waiting to come in. But this guy came in front and center, and he's like just waving. He's just as happy as a clam right now.
Well, I don't know if you've been following the news, but Gavin McLeod passed away today.
Oh, did he?
From the Love Boat, and wasn't his name Captain William Stubing?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I did not know that he died.
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard of it, too.
Wow. That would be very interesting. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was on Facebook briefly today, but I was out at my son's house most of the day, so Huh. I don't know if it
I'm
was
not.
him or not.
Yeah, not sure.
I wonder
if he's
who
on
was thinking of the
Facebook.
Love Boat. The Love Boat.
Yeah.
But
Well,
come to think of it, he did have a hat on, and it looked like one of those hats that he wore, and he did have on light colored clothes, but he was just waving and driving towards the sunset. So, I mean, it could go to any of the viewers out there. I have no idea. Like I said, I'm playing charades here.
wow. Well, that would be interesting. I had no idea that he had died also.
No.
So interesting. He could have come like he's waving, he's happy, he's headed toward the sunset now, and let everybody know that he's doing good.
Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah.
Anything's possible. But if any of the listeners it pertains to you, just write in and let us know, validate it for me.
Yeah. If anybody knows somebody like that, let one of us know, and we will get it posted.
I love when I get validation.
Antietam Now, because you and I, Rhonda, are both very close to both the Antietam battlefield and Gettysburg battlefield, now in Gettysburg itself, as Henry knows and some of the other of us that are involved with the Paranormal View are aware of, because Henry does a lot of shows there, is there any place in particular in Gettysburg itself that you have found to be extremely active or more active than others?
Well, that's where I got my first apparition. And it was at an old-fashioned picture place, but it's not the Victorian photography, which I love to go there and get pictures. I get them all the time. I love pictures. Or the place across from it, but it's down towards General Pickett's a bit, and it was the place where General Reynolds' body was laid after he got shot in the head.
Right.
And I think he died in that place. But I was in the back investigating, and I saw a bright white light coming towards me, and my friend Diane was in the front room, and I said, take pictures quick, and she did, and you could actually see a solid, but I didn't see him with my eyes. I saw the bright white light coming towards me, but you can see a Union soldier there. Even you can see the gold buttons on his sleeve and stuff, and the rank and everything. And there was this bright starburst. I mean, it looks fake, but it's not. I can attest to that. But that's where I got my first apparition. But I love Sachs Bridge. I think it's very active there.
Really?
But Gettysburg, just pick a spot.
True.
Yeah.
Just
true.
Pick a spot. Yeah. Any place that had like a battle like that or anything drastic that had happened. And then you go and you keep that energy alive with all the reenacting that they do all the time. It just keeps it alive. It keeps it going.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of investigators and trying to communicate, so there's portals everywhere. So, I'm quite sure that they don't close those portals up. And, of course, there's natural portals. I mean, with all those stones and lee lines underneath and things like that. So, yeah. I was driving through Gettysburg one time, and my husband is finally starting to believe that I'm actually seeing these things, and I'm not totally.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're driving along, and, of course, I'm always on the lookout, especially at nighttime, for animals to run out in front of me, because I break for animals. I'm sorry, I do. I break for animals.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. My God, Gettysburg, especially at certain times, the deer are just incredible up there. You have to be very careful, especially around dusk.
Well, any little critter running out. And so I saw this brown thing shooting out, and I went, oh, like that, and I stepped on the brake, and I was like, ah. And he goes, what? And I'm saying, nothing. He goes, what? I said, all right. It was just a brown pair of boots going across. That's all it was. It was a worn brown pair of boots just crossing the road. Sometimes you'll just get a partial apparition.
Wow.
And he's like, oh, brother. I said, well, I didn't want to tell you. So, there it is.
Well, that was almost like having two souls or a pair of souls.
Yeah, right?
So do you know Craig Rupp in Gettysburg? Have you heard of him?
I don't recall the name, but might know the face if I saw him.
Okay. Well,
How could you not know Craig Rupp if you investigate in Gettysburg?
Yeah. We're good friends with Craig, and we go anytime we go there, he's with us. He can tell you all kinds of different places and where the battles were and everything about Gettysburg. Real interesting. Do you ever?
And he takes fantastic photography
Yes.
In the battlefield.
Yes.
Okay.
Get on Facebook and look up Craig Rupp. Yeah.
And on
Okay.
Instagram. His photos are on Instagram. They're fantastic.
Craig Rupp, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Rupp
RUPP.
House.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Rupp House there in Gettysburg, RUPP.
Yeah. The name is familiar now, and I am familiar with some of his pictures.
Yeah.
He does take
Yeah,
very
you've
nice
probably
pictures.
seen them from my Facebook page because I'm always sharing them or something. Just
He's taken
incredible.
some beautiful sunset pictures.
Oh,
and
yes.
stuff.
And sunrise. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about the ice cream place, Mr. G's? Have you been there?
Not Mr. G's, but I can't remember the name of the ice cream shop, but it's right across from it's on Baltimore Street, right across from the hard cider place. She makes all of her own ice creams.
Yes.
She has a black walnut ice cream to die for.
Mr. G's does the same thing, and his ice cream place there is an old home, and it was there during the battle and still has bullet holes in it.
Oh, cool.
It is haunted.
Yep.
A lot of the times when we go there, we broadcast our show live from upstairs. He has us come in and we go upstairs and broadcast from there. And we talk about the ghosts that people have seen in that place.
Mm-hmm.
So, very interesting. Have you been
It
to
sounds
Have you been to the David Stewart farm?
Yeah.
Very interesting there.
Yeah, it's pretty active there. I've actually went through the battlefields on horseback too. That was pretty interesting.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah, that's yeah. And they have some evening trips too on horseback through there, and that makes for some nice pictures as well.
Well, they had 2 rooms there that you can rent, 2 different bedrooms upstairs. We did a broadcast a show from there one time, and me and one other one had rooms there, and we spent the night there. Of course, I didn't have anything bother me. Luckily. Which was
I'm
good.
really surprised.
I want it. I want it to happen.
I don't see or feel things very much. There's only one time that I seen some stuff, and that was there at the David Stewart farm out in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but most of the time, I'm not privy to see or hear stuff.
And when I see somebody screaming and running out, that's when I'm running in.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause I'm like,
Unlike those
okay,
TV
good, there's
shows.
something here. There's something here.
Yeah, exactly. You see the TV shows where you hear a voice or you hear a loud thump or something, and the first thing that somebody does is go running in the opposite direction. Me, I'm like, okay, who did it?
See,
I'm going to go
definitely
toward it. Who did this?
We definitely have to investigate together. We definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what irks me with the paranormal shows. Because they'll be, all right, if you're here, make a noise. You're this, you're that. Oh, come on. You're just a sissy. You're not. But then something, boom, boom. Oh, and then they go out and running and screaming.
Yeah. Yeah,
don't
exactly.
Scream about it. You've asked them to make a sign. You've been instigating them. So, okay, they finally do it, and then you go running?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
The thing about ghosts or spirits, they do not perform on cue. You can be asking questions and talking all night. If they don't want to communicate with you, you're not going to get anything.
Right.
I get a lot of EVPs that I never hear until I go back and listen to the recorder. And I'm surprised because, usually I'm already done with the investigation and, I get something that I wished I would have known. I could have been trying to communicate more with it. But like I say, I don't feel or hear anything, but I do get all kinds of EVPs, which I like because that lets me know.
I love EVP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
I wonder why that is. Rhonda, could you maybe give an opinion on this? Why is it that some people, even though now Henry is sensitive to the spirits, he can kind of at least sense that there's something there. Even though you don't really see anything, Henry, you can sense that there's something that might be going on in a location.
Yes.
Because I've been around you when you're like, oh man, this place feels weird, or, something's going on here. But, Rhonda, is there any idea as to why certain people only can sense them, but they can't really see them or feel them or hear them with their ears? Like Henry, he gets some great EVPs, but he doesn't really hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that some people are just, even though Henry is definitely open to it, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Why is it that he isn't actually seeing a lot or hearing a lot with his ears rather than with a recorder?
Well, it depends on if it's a spirit or a ghost. I mean, a spirit has a little bit more power than a ghost does. The ghosts have to tap off of your energy, whereas spirits will tap off of equipment, something that's a higher vibration. But what I've been finding is the more sketchier the entity is, they will cloak themselves and hide from us when we do an investigation. Now, some spirits or ghosts can maybe only have enough energy to be heard by like a recorder or something like that. But others that are stronger can actually make a physical sound. I mean, I've actually heard like moaning and actually words, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the only one in here, so it can't be anybody else. And of course, you have to rule out any kind of outdoor, with somebody standing outside or whatnot, you have to rule all that out. But as far as maybe me being able to hear it better than, say, Henry, it has a lot to do with our own vibrations, too. Our vibrations have to be just right in order for us to be able to fully communicate, hear and see and feel and smell spirit and ghost. If something is out of line with our chakras and we're not vibrating at just the perfect vibration, you just might not be able to fully communicate or sense them. So that's my take on it, if that makes any sense.
Now,
No, I agree with you. I mean, there have been times when I've gone on an investigation, and I've been the only one to pick up on a spirit in the location, and I know exactly that they're there. I can, almost hear them, and see them with my third eye, but nobody else can. But when I ask a question, they only respond on an EVP on somebody's recorder. And it isn't on everybody's recorder. It just might only be on one recorder. And a lot of people seem to think, well, if a spirit is really trying to communicate with you, why aren't they able to put their voice on everybody in the room, on their voice recorder? Why is that not everybody picks it up? Well, it's just like if you have 3 or 4 transistor radios in a room. Not every single transistor radio is going to pick up on the signal. It depends on the equipment. It depends on the signal that's passing through, and so forth. And I think a lot of people just don't understand why mediums don't always pick up on everything. Like you said, it's a frequency. And we don't always, the atmosphere isn't always right. And we don't control that. It just depends on what flows through.
Well, it's your electromagnetic force, too, or field, rather. And everybody has it. Everything has some kind of little force field around it, or energy force field around it. Everything does. Electronic equipment, humans, animals, a rock, anything. We all vibrate on this earth. So, it's like a little invisible vibrating entity, and it might float over the one recorder, and that recorder will pick it up, and it just won't float over anymore.
Yeah.
It's just where it goes. I mean, you can detect that with an EMF reader. I mean, you have to go around the room, and you can actually pick up light bulbs and things like that. But if you move away from it, it's not going to be it's not going to register. So there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. And like I said, I don't have every answer, and I'm not supposed to have every answer. None of us are, but that's why, I'm learning something new every day. My son, he's very scientific brained, and I baffle him at times. He's like, how did you even be able to do that? I'm like, I really don't know, you know? And he explains things to me in scientific terms, and actually helps me to kind of understand it. Spirituality actually the paranormal and science are kind of go hand in hand, really. I mean, Einstein himself said that he would have rather studied psychics than being physics, because it really fascinated him. I mean, Thomas Edison, it fascinated him. It fascinated Tesla.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it fascinates those smart people, there must be something there.
I know one time we were at the Antietam battlefield at that medical place. I forget what the name of it is.
The Pry House.
The Pry House. And everybody that was with us, was the only people there, was upstairs in this one room. And they decided to do EVP session in that room. So they asked a question, and everything was quiet. Kat and I was standing in the doorway of the hall, and all of a sudden I'm hearing people talking downstairs. And I said, do you hear somebody downstairs talking? And she said, yeah, there's 2 or 3 people. And nobody else heard it. There wasn't anybody else in the house. And we caught that on the recorder. You could hear them talking. You couldn't make out what they were saying, but you could hear 2 people talking downstairs. and there wasn't anybody else in the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's stuff like that's about the only time that I've actually heard things.
And it's so
Yeah,
amazing when you do hear that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, I don't always hear a lot with my ears, but because Henry and I were the only two that were, not everybody could fit in that room, so it was like Henry and I were kind of pushed out because we couldn't fit into that other room, so we're just standing in that hallway right next to the staircase, and it was just a look on his face when I realized, oh, heck, he's hearing it too. And he said, do you hear that? I'm like, yeah. So I walked over and I looked down over the staircase and I could hear it all the way downstairs. And as it turned out, another person that was on the investigation had put a stationary camera in the hallway looking down from the front door down the hallway. And I'll be darned if his camera didn't pick it up. You know, he told us that after he reviewed it. He picked up the voices too. And that's validation, as you said. That's a validation right there. You know, Henry and I were not hearing things and, you know, not able to explain it. It was actually picked up on a stationary camera.
Yep. And that's you know, that's where that ghost hunting equipment comes in really handy. And when it catches something like that and you actually have a personal experience with it, that is just the double whammy right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I've been getting a lot of emails and things from and messages from professional people lately, especially first responders, nurses, and firefighters, EMTs, and they have issues going on in their houses, and they obviously then contact me. But what's happening is a lot of these, when somebody dies, like in the ER or hospital, or especially at like a accident site or something like that, they're attaching to these first responders because they see them as a rescuer, and they don't come to terms or don't want to accept that they're dead, they're physically dead, and they hang on to them in hopes that they're going to be seen and they're going to be heard and they're going to be helped. And we've actually seen a lot of that lately. And I think also with the COVID going on there, a lot of people have died this past year. And so don't be surprised if, you know, you see that with anybody that comes in contact with you, reaching out for help, because they have been. I mean, Terry and I are busy and sharing with that a lot now.
Are you still there? Did we lose somebody?
I'm still here.
Oh. Is everybody else still here?
As far as I know.
Oh, okay. I wasn't hearing anything.
Haven't been abducted yet.
Barbara, you've been quiet. Ain't you got some questions?
Oh, I'm listening.
Oh, well, I
Quite
didn't
riveting.
know if you had anything. I wanted to let everybody know if you do have questions, we got less than a half hour, so you need to get them over to us so we can get them asked. Tabby Cat, you still there?
Yeah,
Oh.
sorry, I had to leave for a moment. One of my cats was throwing up a hairball.
Oh, well, that happens too.
I mean, I
Better
heard
out
it
than in.
through my headphones, so I had to go and investigate.
Ah, okay.
And hope it wasn't on your bed or something.
No, it was right here in the hallway, and if I hadn't gone to clean it up when I did, I probably would have found it.
Now,
with the
my feet.
barefoot.
you are an investigator. What are some of the places that you've been to investigate that was pretty active?
Well, a lot of my private homes. I did one recently, and it was just right down the street from where I live, about a half a mile. And as soon as I walked in, I saw a little old lady with a walker, and I told the woman, the homeowner, I said, "Well, there's a little old lady standing right here," and I asked what her name was, and she said Helen, and I said, "It's Helen or Ellen?" She goes, "Yep, that was the former owner," and she just did not want to cross over. She didn't want to leave her house. And her husband, there was another psychic that came in there, and, she picked up one or two, and also the husband has been coming over. But now keep in mind, when one is in spirit, one is still, I'm going to refer to it as a ghost. Their vibrations are different. Now they can sense that they're there just like we can, but they really can't see each other that much. But she doesn't want to go over even to him because she's mad at him for letting her down, because, I think she blames him that she got put into a nursing home or whatnot. And even though he died before her, she's even mad at him for doing that. So, and I can't, and they're like, "Well, can you cross her over?" I really can't. They have free will. So I can open up a portal. I can call in angels. I can call in their guides. I can call in their loved ones. But if they don't want to go, they're not going to go. But, I told her, I said, "Listen, it's up to you. But if you choose to stay, you've got to realize that you're living with this lady now. So you're going to have to mind her. It's her house now." So far, so good. I haven't heard anything. But, I mean, just a lot of these old houses, people have passed away in. And now with home hospice care, people are now dying at home again. So, yeah. And every time somebody dies, a portal opens, and it closes when they go in there. But while it's open, I think some things can kind of sneak in when they want to, even though they're not supposed to. I think they can. But, there's so many ways that you can prevent that, or if you have an issue, you can keep it at bay just by simply raising the vibrations in your house and your vibrations. Because when your vibrations are higher than theirs, it's kind of impossible for them to even hang around. It makes it uncomfortable for them. But let's see, I worked for Rose Hill Manor. That's the Governor Thomas Johnson's, where he lived and died. And I've seen a few things there. It's not haunted, but the spirits certainly come to visit there quite often. It's not spooky by any means. I really haven't had really spooky experiences. But I'm going to say like places like Antietam and Gettysburg, again, because of all the reenacting and things like that, keeps it open, keeps it active. So I would, Gettysburg is like my home away from home. I go there to relax, but also if I want to, just see a little spirit activity or capture something, it's almost a guarantee.
Yeah, indeed.
And I do have connections there because my cousin was Henry Balger of Gettysburg College. And he did the benediction. Yeah, and also General Sickles, I'm cousins with him.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Well, if you dig deep enough, you're related to just
To a lot of people.
You know, you'll find out you're related to somebody or another.
Exactly.
And now, speaking of that, the spirits know that a lot of this ancestry, the DNA stuff, and it's easy to find them now. So I've been getting a lot of, great grandparents coming through that people don't even know. And I'm like, they just want you to do the ancestry research. You will find them.
Huh.
They want you to do it. A lot of them have been coming through and wanting that for some reason or another.
Wow.
I guess they want to be seen or heard or known. And also, I'm a firm believer that one of the relatives, our distant relatives, we actually lived through with a past life. That's my theory. And, of course, we have that spiritual DNA and the physical DNA there. So if you did past life regression, which I'm going to be hypnotized Sunday, that Sharon's going to do that. But if you do a past life regression, you'll be able to remember some of that stuff.
Wow.
It's really pretty wild. I've had it done before, and it's really neat. It really is.
Yeah.
My husband and I have had past lives before, and every time I get mad at him, I'm like, this is it. Last life. Last life, buddy. No more. We're done.
Like the 9 lives. It's the 9 lives of marriage.
We are so done. Stick me with a fork.
So how many years have you been into being able to see and communicate with spirits?
I've seen them all my life. I can actually remember as far back as when I was a baby. Not vividly, but I can remember some things. And one of the things that I can remember is laying on the bed or laying down, and I can remember seeing dark things on the ceiling. And they were like shadow things. And then when I got older, my grandmother, Frederick is an old town, and she lived in town, and we would take walks, and I would see people that were dressed far differently from anybody else. And I thought that everybody else could see them, but then I realized nobody else could see them. It was just me, and they were dressed Victorian-like. And also, I could smell things. I'd be walking along, I would smell cigars, I'd smell pipes, I'd smell sickening things, I'd smell, different things. And just popped in my mind about the ancestry research. I've been doing that for like some 25 years. So there's a really old building downtown. It's Historical Society, and in the basement they have research where you can do your ancestry. So I was down there with just me and this little old lady, right? It's a big building. And so I was doing my research, and all of a sudden she just like disappeared. I don't know where she went to, but I heard all these kids running through the building. I'm like, and they were screaming and running and going down the stairs. I'm like, my golly. So I walked up the steps to go see. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm like, where did those kids go? I looked out the front door, nothing. Back door, nothing. That lady is still not around. I couldn't find her. So I just went downstairs and continued on. Well, a couple years after that, I did the Walking Ghost Tour of Frederick, which is very cool, by the way. Very cool. It's a historical dark side of Frederick. You'll find out some things. But we stopped in front of the Historical Society, and he was talking about it. He said, yes, this used to be an orphanage.
Oh, my God.
And then, not only that, a little bit later, I go to, because my great-grandmother died of the flu in 1918. And my grandmother was my grandmother's mother. Well, my great-grandfather was away at World War I. And so my grandmother was given to some people at a farm. her brother was adopted by, or the grandparents took him. And then my grandmother's 2 younger sisters was put in that orphanage.
Goodness.
So
Wow.
they were probably going, hey, we were here.
Yeah. So they were trying to draw your attention, and you didn't have any idea what the connection was until, later. I mean, that's chilling. It's cool and it's chilling at the same time.
Well, and here's the thing. The man that was given the tour, he said, yeah, in a certain time of the day, and I forgot what he said, it's like 1 o'clock or something like that. It was right around the time that I heard the kids, the milkman would come and deliver. And they got excited for that. And they would run down the stairs to greet him. So, I'm like, wow, that's something else. So, but see there, though, I mean, they can give you signs. You just have to be open enough to receive it and figure it out. It's like playing charades.
Wow.
It really is, yeah. The orphanage up in Gettysburg is pretty active. I had an experience there. I was in the dungeon by myself.
Ooh.
And I had my video recorder on. I had my still camera in my lap. And also was taking some pictures. But I turned the light off and I had my husband guard the door. I said, don't let anybody near here. I don't want any contamination. So I'm in there, and I'm trying to communicate, and there were orbs, but then again, it was dusty in there, but I was very still. And all of a sudden, I'm recording. My recorder shuts off. My still camera in my lap starts going on and off. And the light that's inside the dungeon came on really dim and then as bright as the sun. And then really dim again, and then bright again. And I said, Joe, is anybody near that light? And he's like, no, nobody's here. I didn't get to film any of that, but it was a personal experience. But, yeah, the kids were playing with me in there. And maybe they saw me as a threat. I don't know, because it was a woman, that tortured those kids. And in the dungeon is shackles where they would shackle those little kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is one place that I've been to only once, and I honestly could not even allow myself to open up. I couldn't. I just got so overwhelmed that even during the tour, I literally had to put a huge bubble around myself. I couldn't allow myself to open up. Couldn't do it.
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did allow it. And the beginning, of course, you have to have somebody that works there to open it up for you, and then they hang out across the street until you're done. So they were telling a little bit about the orphanage. I had never been at the orphanage at all. So we were standing there. All of a sudden, I saw a dark silhouette shadow figure of a woman in a hoop skirt go in the wall. And I told her, I said, well, wait a minute, I just saw this woman go in that wall. She said, oh, well, that actually used to be the front of the building where they would enter and exit. So we walked in there, and then they have pictures on this wall, and the lady, it looked just like this one lady's picture on the wall, but she was actually the nice lady that worked there. But that was right off the get-go. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting tonight.
Oh, wow.
But I would recommend it. I mean, they will allow you to rent it after hours for a couple of hours, and they'll let you in there. But they do have people living in apartments up above. So sometimes if they flush the toilet or something like that, you can get some contamination that way with your evidence or whatever. But It's very cool, though. I like it. And then we actually then went to the Jenny Wade house, and we got to spend some time in there alone. But that wasn't very active. I mean, a little bit in the basement, but not much.
Wow. I know we were asked to come in to investigate the Preble County Historical Society, and they had never let anybody go in there. And so we went to talk to them before we investigated. They said that they really hadn't seen or heard anything other than sometimes they'd be there and they would hear the front door open up like somebody's coming in to, look around the place. And they'd go out and look, and there's nobody there. So we went there, and they stayed in the office. And Mark and myself was downstairs, and my son went upstairs. And he'd only been up there 15, 20 minutes. And he come downstairs all shook up. He said, "Dad, you guys got to go upstairs." He said, "I hear a little kid talking to me. It's real soft, like whispery." He couldn't make out what they were saying. But he was all shook up. He went outside. So he left his recorder up there going, and Mark and myself went upstairs, and we was up there maybe a half hour and never got anything. So when we went back and listened to everything on his recorder, you got a real clear voice saying, "Come back." The kid wanted him to come back and talk with him more. So when we told the people about it, they said they never realized that there had been any kids there until they started doing more research, and come to find out after the woman who owned the house, her parents had died, and so she was staying there running the farm, and to help out, they went to the orphanage in Eaton and had kids come there and stay to work. And that's how they found out that those kids are.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So interesting. I mean, we've never had anything bad or anything else there. I mean, we've been investigated the place quite a few times. We haven't done anything since COVID, but we were able to go in there, and then they didn't allow anybody else to go in there but us, which I liked.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So our time is running out. We got less than 5 minutes. Any quick thing anybody wants to ask to start with before we start wrapping?
Well, one final question I do have for you, Rhonda. When it comes to doing either readings or Reiki, is there anything in particular that you would suggest for the people that contact you? I mean, what kind of frame of mind or questions should they have for you before you do this?
Before I do a reading or Reiki?
Either one.
Just well, to take the classes, or for me to be a practitioner or something?
For you to be a practitioner.
Okay. Well, for Reiki, I mean, people usually have some sort of a health issue, or maybe a spiritual or emotional issues. It helps with a lot of that. Just or even with a psychic question or a mediumship, you want to connect with somebody, just try to work on your vibrations and be open. It helps me out a lot because it helps with the energy on my end and your end. I always tell people, go on YouTube, look up guided chakra balancing meditations and do them every week. And I also take a lot of strong Epsom salts baths that helps with cleansing and for balancing out your energy. But it's very important for you to have your chakra, it's your energy, your spiritual energy flowing through. And it's attached to your physical body. I mean, a plug has has current going through it, but you can't see it for the plug, for the plastic or whatever it is, the rubber or whatever is on the outside of the plug. So that's our bodies, and inside it, we have that current going, but if, it's interrupted or cut somewhere, it's not going to flow very safely or very efficiently. So it's important that you get that flowing good. And also it will protect you from any kind of negative entity or anything like that, especially if you're doing ghost hunting or any kind of paranormal work. You must keep your energy, your vibrations up, and your chakras clear and running good.
Great.
All right. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. We want you to stay on until after we're off, and we'll talk with you for a minute. Let's see. I guess, Kat?
Yep.
Do you know who our guest is next week?
Oh, most certainly. We've got Mac Maloney, and he is a best-selling author of some absolutely fantastic books, including the UFO and
Haunted Universe.
Yes, the Haunted Universe, Military X-Files, and a number of other things, and it should be absolutely incredible.
Yes, and I got the book today, so Haunted Universe. Excellent book.
Yep.
So
I'll have to pick up a copy myself.
It's very interesting. With that, I guess it's time for us to start wrapping now. So we will see everyone next week at the same time, and be here as we talk with Mac Maloney. With that, this is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gould.
Barbara Duncan.
Tabby Cat Gash.
And we will see you next week at the same time. So everybody have a safe weekend. And we will, as soon as I get my thing here. Not that.
Good old Henry.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Night all.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.